Well, I want to welcome you back to part two. Um, Apologize for the terrible sound quality on part one, but we're working through that. So let's go ahead and pull this intake off, expose what's underneath, and hopefully it's not too terribly bad. It's a good place to grab this thing. It's not the lightest thing in the world, but all right. Left one vacuum line attached. Let's get that off. Slide back over there. And let's just move this out of the way for right now and look at what's in it right here. All right, so let me get down in here and let's look and see what we've got. Got some pretty good nastiness in here. The milkshake, again, that's water having seeped, and I can tell. I mean, there's so many places where this intake gasket has failed. All right, so here's one spot right there. You see that? It has completely come apart. That's not supposed to be like that. And none of it is going to win any awards. It's like it's failed in a number of places. So my goal at this point now is to clean this as best as I can. So let's look and see what the intake looks like. All right, so if I turn the intake over, again we see the milkshake, but now that's not clogged up. It's supposed to be closed off like that, and this one is the same way. So I mean, not terribly bad actually on the bottom. It's halfway decent. I mean, we are going to clean all this mess off. There's your little injectors right here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. The 6 cylinders. All right, so we got some cleaning to do there, and we are going to separate the top half from the bottom half, because I have a new fuel pressure regulator that we want to put in here, and it's underneath the top part. We're not taking anything else apart on this until we give it a good cleaning. We're going to have to. We are first going to have to take this throttle body off, because you got some electrical components right here. Then we're going to scrub the rest of it down best we can. As for this side, we're going to clean as best we can. That port back here, let's see if I can get you in there a little closer. A little bit of trash in there, nothing major. A little bit of trash and gunk in there, nothing major. It's not completely stopped up, so that's good. All right, we have one passage here that's completely plugged up with gunk. So we're gonna have to dig all that out. It's closed off. So we'll get into that cleaning. And I took the upper portion of the intake off for one reason only, and that's because the fuel pressure regulator is underneath it. And while this seems to have been functioning as it's supposed to while we're here, very easy to do. Now, a month from now, if it goes out, we'd have to tear them back into this whole thing. So we're going to replace that. This is what they call your spider injection system. I'm not sure why they call it a spider. Anyway, this has a gasket that is completely shot. So definitely need a gasket. The underside of this is, I mean, it's pretty nasty. Obviously there's been water in here, thus the obviously been water in here, simply because of the way it is. And the part that I took off, the upper intake, right here, and you see the same milkshake stuff. That's evidence of water. All right, so we're gonna clean this up, replace these, replace the gaskets. This gasket, we're gonna get it as clean as we can. I'm not gonna do a whole lot of fooling around with these injection system, because these lines are like some type of rubber plastic. I'm pretty sure it wouldn't take much to crack one of those, so gonna leave all that alone. We'll clean the gunk off the mating surfaces, try to spray a little carb cleaner on all this to get residue off or whatever, make sure passages are open, replace gaskets. We're going to put it back together. Okay, what I've done is cleaned up as best I could the lower intake, the upper intake, that throttle body. Now just keep in mind, while you say, well, I still see some dirt, we're not making a show truck out of it. We're just trying to do a decent repair for the owner of the truck, so he can not have to worry about coolant leaks anymore, and he can drive the truck and be dependable for him. All right, so let's get some gaskets on this and put it back together. Then we're going to move over to the truck, start cleaning those mating surfaces up, getting the valve covers off, clean those. Still got a ways to go. Doing good though. It's a good project. Okay, so I've already gotten one valve cover off. I cleaned it, got the valve cover gasket back on, and got that back on, and cleaned the mating surface for the intake manifold over here on the driver's side. Unplugged that passageway back there, and all the gunk that came out of it's laying here in this valley on my paper towels. Took the valve cover off of the passenger side just so you can see what's in there. Not a lot of, this truck's got a lot of miles on it, so there's not a lot of gunk and buildup. So the oil was being maintained, but the water, So I cleaned this valve cover up, put the gasket on it, put it back on, and clean that surface off. And we're going to be ready to start putting the intake back on and start getting this mess put back together. All right, we got both valve covers cleaned with new gaskets. Going to get the shop towels out with all that garbage in it. Get those out. Going to wipe down the mating surfaces one more time with some carb cleaner. Make sure there's no little tidbits on there. Before we put the intake back in, we have to put a 1/4-inch bead on top of these end walls of the block back there as well, because there is no gasket for that. You just put a bead of silicone, and then you sit your intake nice and smooth down, and it'll squish it a little bit, and once it sets up, it's completely sealed off. All right, so let's do that, and I'll get you back. All right, I've started changing the spark plugs, and very quickly realized we're going to have to put a set of plug wires on it too, because this old rubber, it's like everything else, you know, it's brittle and breaks. So go have to get a set of plug wires. On the driver's side, the front one is it's okay, you can get it. That middle one is directly behind the steering shaft. So the only way that I saw that I could do it was I took the steering shaft loose from the gearbox, which is really easy. It's just one little bolt, and then you can swing this up and around out of the way. As far as getting to the plugs to get them out, if you go under the wheel well, you can get them out that way easier. The passenger side is the same way. Now go ahead and jack the truck up. You don't have to take the wheel off. Just jack it up so that you can get some more space in here. And there's the 3 plugs right there. So we got fresh plugs in. Now we got to put wires. We got our intake in. It's a little tricky because if you don't have this bracket off or your alternator bracket off, actually it's gonna hang up on this bolt right here, because it has to get around the oil sending unit back there. It's a little notch in the intake that has to go around that, so it's a little tricky. So just be mindful that you know, with that alternator bracket still on, you're gonna have just a little bit of problem getting it in there. But if you go in, always use new intake manifold bolts, because your others will be corroded from the coolant. And you'll want to torque it down in well, you're going to end up with 35 foot-pounds of torque. You'll want to do that in 2 stages. So, you know, just take like, I don't know, 10 or 15 on the first go round, then going up to 35. I had a little bit of trouble getting this back in. However, I did get it in. It's seated very well. This goes down to the exhaust manifold. This is part of EGR stuff. All right, intake's in. It's bolted down, torqued. We're just going to start putting back. Probably going to do plug wires next. All right, it is starting to look like an engine again. Alternator's back in. All the pigtails, air box, air conditioning compressor, even got the belt back on. However, I can't find a place for this plug, and if I look at it close, it doesn't. It looks dirty where it should be clean. I don't know that this was plugged into anything, but I can't find anything to plug it into. If you guys know what the little blue one plugs into, let me know. But dude, I can't find anything. Everything else has a home. You know, when you lay the wiring harness back over, everything wants to go back to where it was. Well, this one wants to go right here. There's nothing there. Nothing there to plug it into. Now, we do have some extra parts. I call that improving on the engineering. You always have extra parts left over, right? Have no idea what this, I'm sure this bracket was holding some type of clamp to hold some wires or whatever, and some extra bolts. Anyway, we'll put them in the inventory pile. Kind of find out these distributor caps, one of the issues with this engine was they're brittle. Of course, this one's probably the original, and so it was extra so. So we got all that. Everything's put back in. Basically, all I got left now is to put the battery back in. I need to change the oil in it because I'm not going to crank it with that milkshake in there. And so that's about it. But before I start it up, I'll get you guys back in here. And, well, if your fingers crossed. This is the oil filter. I have drained more water than I have oil out of the little truck. And it's still coming. There was probably, realistically, half a gallon of just plain water that came out first, because the water will settle to the bottom, the oil will be on top. So about a half a gallon of just plain water. Then it was this, and it's been, make sure you guys can see that, it's been draining for a while. No telling. Hope it hasn't done any damage to the engine, but you know, only time will tell that. I've taken the oil filter out, of course you saw it, so it's dripping there too. So anyway, once it decides to stop, we will put the plug back in, put a new filter on, got some fresh oil, and we will definitely not go 3,000 miles for the next oil change. We may go 100 miles or even 50. I don't know yet, but maybe about 50 miles, and then we'll change it again, because this, you know, we got to get that stuff flushed out. So anyway, the startup is coming, so hang on. You won't want to miss that. Keep your fingers crossed. Well, it's time for the final moment. Now, that's what come out of the crankcase. That's not the water. Like, you know, I said the plain water came out first. I just let that go. As soon as I started seeing milkshake, put the pan under it, and that's what we got. Now, I think I have everything connected to where we can fire this thing up. I think. So, fingers crossed, toes crossed. Running smooth. I can hear a very slight knock in it. You have to listen real hard. And this wasn't a new truck, you know, that we repaired. It was a 4-out truck that we made a repair to. So it's running really smooth. I'm waiting for the thermostat to open. I'm gonna finish topping it off with the Dex Cool. Once you start using Dex Cool in a GM engine, you don't ever want to switch. Matter of fact, you don't ever really want to use anything else, because they say it's designed for the Dex Cool. They're probably just trying to sell the Dex Cool brand. Look, the antifreeze lasts 150,000 miles, so why not? So I'm waiting for the thermostat to open. We'll top it off with the Dex Cool. running a lot smoother than it was before we ever started the repair. You know, I drove it up on the trailer to get it over here, and of course with that intake gasket failure and all the water in the oil, uh, she's running with rough. Much smoother now. Of course, we put new spark plugs, new plug wires, new distributor cap, new rotor. So she's got her second wind now. I think she's got her second life ahead of her. Very pleased. James, pleased with it. I think he got a pretty decent truck back. Awesome. I'm gonna let it sit here and warm up and get the temperature. Uh, Make sure we get the antifreeze top where it needs to be. However, remember, I'm only going to put about 50 miles on this thing, probably at the most. We're going to drop that oil, replace it with a new filter because, you know, the sludge, once you start mixing water with oil and air, that was, you know, intake gaskets completely failed, you're going to get a lot of sludge. Uh, there had been different antifreezes mixed, so it's sludge there in the cooling system. And with the cooling system leaking into the oil, the sludge leaks into the oil. It's a catastrophe, like a major catastrophe. You're doing really good. I'm gonna call this a victory. I hope you enjoyed it. You know, um, I tried to show you the highlights, and I could make a 6 hour long video with every single step I took. But you know, if you know how to turn wrenches, you don't need that stuff. You just need some tips to kind of help you along with your project. Um, anyway, if you got any questions, comments, appreciate them. Hope you guys have a nice day. If you haven't subscribed yet, please do. You know, I like to eat 3 meals a day. Got animal feed, so you guys just remember always be kind to one another. We'll see you next time.